This is a Stock Trader Reality Podcast, episode 193.
I think that my problem overall has just been consistency. And I think that there's a variety of reasons for that. And consistency is really what I'm trying to get to here.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host, who loves to passively brag that his brother-in-law works for Google. Yeah, we know. What? No, I didn't say that on mic. Clay Trader.
Yeah, and this is kind of random because I know just last week, and I didn't have this planned, but I talked about being a coffee snob, and then I had mentioned my brother-in-law who works for Google in sales, and here the next fun fact was that I do like to kind of passively brag. And I guess the irony here is I was probably doing it for that, for last week's fun fact when Ches and I were discussing. I was like, well, yeah, and my brother-in-law, he works for Google, and he's good at sales. But yeah, I do like to kind of passively brag. I don't know, maybe I'm just very easy to impress, but I think it's kind of cool that I know somebody that works for Google and that he happens to just be my brother-in-law. A quick plug, if you're interested on my Money with Clay podcast, I do lots of long-form interviews with people, and he is one of them where I sat down. I think ours was like almost 2.5 hours. But yeah, he just talked about his journey, how he got to Google. He gives a bunch of recommendations because he's really good at interviews and all that. So he gives recommendations on how to make sure you kind of keep your pulse on your own worth, about what you're worth in whatever your career is, and how to do well with interviews and all that sort of good stuff. So, I mean, you can go check that out if you want. But yeah, I kind of like to brag about that, and I think it's kind of cool. But Ches, well, you weren't in Silicon Valley. You were in Southern California. But and I know you used to work for, in fact, I still think it is kind of cool that you used to work for, this makes me look, who did you used to work for? The big Newegg. Yep, I was like, I know what Newegg is. Yep. I've bought some stuff from them. So I'm assuming you probably know some people that work for some of the big tech companies, or I guess I don't necessarily know who's in Southern California, but.
Well, I most of my friends were actually up north in San Francisco, where there's just buku bucks and But if anybody who's listening is a gamer or whatnot, Twitch.tv, I have a few friends who are vice presidents there, and that company went from a staff of like 20 to being bought by Amazon for a lot of money. So I actually almost ended up working out there too. But yeah, it's I don't do very good in California. I like Colorado much more now.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of people in that state, but
I like snow.
Yeah, you do like snow, and as we discuss here, you mentioned that it's actually already snowed by you a couple of times. But today we are bringing back somebody that we discovered in the early portion of the talk was on episode 40. So I mean, if I do the math, carry the one, that was 150 some episodes ago. So it's been a long time since we talked to Zep, and that is the same alias he uses in the chat room. But I don't know. I don't want to offer up too many spoilers. But he had Ches and I thinking one direction, and then kind of there's a twist that I won't get into. But regardless of that, a lot of great stuff. He's very candid. He's gone through a lot of mental battles. He's done some things that he wishes he probably wouldn't have done, and he shares all that. So I pulled away some good things, more so from kind of the mental perspective of things. But there's definitely lots of little nuggets via experience that you can take and apply to your current situation in trading or investing or what have you. So without further ado, let's get back in here and have a good, solid conversation with Zep. Zep, welcome back to the show.
Hey, how are you guys?
I'm good. Ches, are you doing all right?
Water main broke, so there's just people and everything flying everywhere. So other than that, yes, everything is good.
So, Ches, you officially no longer take, well, not that you ever did take it for granted, but a water main, probably one of those things you don't really stop and say, you know what, I'm thankful for that water main every day. But I'm sure now you're going to be thankful for it.
This Thanksgiving, I'm giving thanks to all the people who do public works in my town. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and the technology of water mains to even begin with. But yeah, a little context for listeners. This got pushed back a little bit because Ches is having, Ches, when you live up in the mountains, is it snowing by you?
It's already snowed twice this year, but the only thing I'm missing is I just need to go live down by the river, and I could just scoop some water straight out of a nice, cool Rocky Mountain stream. But I don't live up that high yet.
Not yeah. Well, and for context, it's still like mid-October as of the recording of this. So to hear that it's already snowed a couple of times for you, Ches,
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not jealous of you, but it's coming. It's coming our way soon to Michigan, and then Zep. If my memory serves me right, here we go, Ches. Last week you were giving me a hard time about my memory. Let's see how we do it again. If my memory serves me right, you are in Wisconsin, Zep. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, I live in.
Yeah.
Yep. Appleton, Wisconsin. It's central, east central.
Okay. And we also, you and I have met in person. You came to the Nashville meet and greet. Is that correct?
Yeah. That was. I think that was just about exactly 2 years ago. I was just thinking about that. That was mid-October of 2016, if I'm remembering right.
Was it an October one? That would make sense because usually, yeah, I think so because we wanted to go someplace where we're still relatively warm. And I remember you drove down and it was like a 12-hour drive or something for you, right?
Yeah, I think I did it in about 11. Yeah, that was a long drive. But absolutely worth it. That was one of the best experiences I've ever had, really, in my trading career.
They really are fun. I appreciate you saying that. And I mean, we had a good little venue there. A member's girlfriend helped us set it up, and it was a good time. Ches, you had a bachelor party, if I remember right, so you weren't able to make that one.
Yep, I was not able to make that one. That was the only meetup I've actually missed. I was kind of bummed.
And it was because
that was the one time I couldn't. I remember that. I didn't meet Ches. That was the one time.
I actually was trying to avoid Zep, so yes, I was having that quote-unquote bachelor party. That's right.
Yeah, the lingo or the what's military speak? I can't remember what do they what word am I looking for? Where words designate other things? I can't think of the like code or whatever.
Oh,
yeah, that was
bachelor party.
Yeah, exactly. I want to avoid Zep at all costs. But
right.
No, I remember.
You're smart.
No, Zep, you're a good. Your real name is your real name Aaron? If I remember.
Yeah, well,
right?
I'll tell you what. My full name is Christopher Aaron Zeppelin, and as long as in my entire adult life, I've always been called Aaron. My parents started doing that before I have any memory of it. And I think it's because if I remember them telling me this right, it's because people started calling me Chris, and they thought that was a girl's name or it was being associated with a girl's name, and so they started going by Aaron. And I'm really glad they did that because I definitely prefer Aaron to Chris. I like the name Christopher, but I really don't like the name Chris. And a lot of times, like if I'm getting my ID checked at a bar or something like that, the servers will try to be nice and say, "Oh, thank you, Chris." And it just drives me nuts. I'm like, no, don't do that. But but they have no way of knowing. But so my entire adult life I've gone by Aaron. And some people find that out right away about the Christopher thing, and there's other people that have known me my whole life that just find out at some random time. They're like, "Oh, your real name's Christopher?" I'm like, "Well, my real name's Aaron too. It's just that it's my middle name." But
yeah, I have a friend that we've been friends. She goes to her church. I'm trying to think. I don't know. For we'll just call it 5 years. And sure. Shelly, we call her Shelly. And then all of a sudden I learned, I guess I've known for a while now, but out of nowhere I learned her name is actually Michelle. And I'm like, wait a second, your name's actually Michelle? So I can kind of relate to how some people are you just get to know them as something, but you're like, well, technically speaking, it's actually not that. But now you mentioned driving you nuts. I don't want to drive you nuts.
Oh, yeah, no, don't.
Is Zep going to be okay, or is that going to drive you nuts?
Oh, yeah, no, and Zep is like what most of my friends call me too around here.
Okay, perfect.
That's very common. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. So.
Because I was like, I'm pretty sure that I called him Zep the whole time in the last episode, or the previous
and that's
episode.
Fine. That's what I go by in the chat room too. So yeah, it's no big deal. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Well, let's see. We were talking before we got recording, and you thought you were on episode 40. Ches went and confirmed you were on episode 40. This is episode 193. So it's been a while since you've been on, and
quite a while.
And we're glad to have you back. And we did do some emailing. So as always, for full disclosure's sake, lots of times Ches and I go in totally blind. I'm not going in totally blind. I know a little bit of here, what's been going on, some of Zep's journey. So I will be playing stupid in a little portions of things, but I also, I think that's more of a broad sense. I don't know kind of the nooks and crannies, but Zep, things haven't been going quite as smoothly as you would ideally like. Is that a fair summary of kind of how things have been going since, I guess, I don't know, since when? Since the last episode, since we met in Nashville, which was about 2 years ago. When do you think that's been where things have been a little rocky?
Well, I think that my problem overall has just been consistency. And I think that there's a variety of reasons for that. And consistency is really what I'm trying to get to here. And basically, just to kind of let people know a little bit too, like my deal is I'm a musician, and I'm a lot busier in the summertime than I am the rest of the year. So I don't usually trade in the summertime. This year I did a couple little swings, but summertime for me is usually just all about music, because it's just really difficult for me to stay on a trading schedule with the early mornings. But and so this year, I felt like last spring I had a little bit of momentum going, like I was, carrying, like I was like, finally maybe getting to be a little bit more consistent. I was really happy about that. And this summer,
what type of trading were you doing?
Okay, yeah, that's the thing. What I'm into mostly, and have been into mostly up until like these last few weeks for sure, has been basically scalping the NQ futures. And it's kind of a story how I got into that. But I think,
well, how did you get into futures? Because I don't know that story.
Sure,
so tell us.
Yeah, I was going to say I want to hear the story as well.
Yeah, okay, let's just start. At the time of my last podcast, I was really trying to do the directional options thing, and I was struggling with that. I continued to struggle with that for about 2 or 3 months after that, and I was paper trading because my thing was I wasn't gonna trade with real money until I could show consistency paper trading, which makes sense, right? But the frustrating thing was that I could never. It just seemed like I just couldn't get it. And when I think back about it now, I think that a large part of my problem is just that I was very ambitious in the beginning, and I had a lot of beginner's luck. And I learned, because I was so aggressive about getting educated right away. I think I discovered options before I really had any significant trading experience. And so I was trying to learn to day trade options before I had any like real experience trading stock successfully, like on a consistent basis, I mean. And I think that just with all the variables that go into trading options, along with just being able to read charts on different time frames and everything that goes into that, I just think that I bit off a little more than I can chew, and I was expecting myself to get that a little bit quicker than I was. But the longer that it goes on, it just becomes kind of a like I just kind of fell into a rut there with it, and I just couldn't. It was so frustrating, it's so defeating. Like, how could I not be good at this with all the time and the effort that I'm putting into this, right? And after about 3 months, I just kind of said, I was so just beat up from it. I just took a break from the options day trading thing anyway, and I put on a big trade on Netflix. It was a covered call I put on Netflix back when Netflix was a lot cheaper, relatively speaking. I think it was still trading under $100 at that time, and that was a good trade overall. It was good for me to kind of get things moving back in the right direction, in terms of profit. But after that happened, after that trade is over, and we can talk about that trade another time if you want, or if we can go into more detail with it. It was a good trade, but I could have done it a lot better too, if I would have just been planned it a little bit better on how I was going to get out of it. I held it through earnings. That was part of the problem.
Okay. Well, there you go. I was wondering. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's when you say big trade on Netflix, I'm like, man, that thing has had some swings up and down on earnings.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Yeah. You've been.
Well, what
earnings.
happened on that one was, it was going so far in my direction. I bought it at $98.09, and I sold the $100 call on it, and I rolled it a couple of times, and so I was doing good with the premium, and then it just shot way up. It was almost, I don't remember exactly where it was at that time, but it was approaching 120, and I had looked at the standard deviation on what an expected move on it was. I'm like, well, because I was almost at max profit. If I would have closed it the day before earnings, I would have made, probably $400 or $500 more. But what happened was, it went, I thought it would, in my opinion, I was like, what, if it stays over 100, then I get, then it's essentially the same thing. I'm going to make my max profit on it. But it didn't stay over 100. It went from like 118 or 16, whatever it was, all the way down to like 92 over after hours. Yeah. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Really? Like, come on. And And so, that was a little nerve wracking. But here's the cool thing about a covered call. This is what I like about covered calls. Even though it went all the way down that low, it was still, I think, about 50 cents above my break even point. So I was right in the way that it had to go all the way down there for me to lose money. But I also left a lot on the table. But here's what happened. It actually came back up. And the funny thing is, the next day, it was a cash account. You can do a covered call on a cash account because you actually own the stock. And so I actually sold a call on it from a cash account. But I had to get rid of the call before I could get rid of the stock, I think, if I remember that right. And so it was very awkward the way I got out of it in the morning. I wasn't paying attention. I was probably going to be a dead cat. It had bounced back up close to where it was above 98 again. But the funny thing is, when I got out of the stock, just by random chance, because it was a market order, I had sold it for exactly what I paid for it. So I sold it for 98.09 when I had paid for it. So I broke even on the stock, but it still came out like plus 575 because of premium. So I really like covered calls because of that kind of reason. Like, you have when they go in your direction, you have a lot of high probability chance of making money on them.
Oh yeah.
So that was my
layering on options on that too. You're increasing pretty much where your actual break even is too, and you could just keep doing that and doing that and doing that. So if you have shares, absolutely, we always recommend people in their retirement accounts sell options against. And Clay, I know that's probably the only options trades you ever do is selling calls against your stock.
Yeah, and I've done a couple of protective puts a few times, but as far as a routine basis, yeah, if I was forced into the corner, as far as I like to call, covered calls, essentially you create a dividend for yourself. And, it's not technically a dividend, but that's just kind of my way of looking at it. So yeah, Ches, you are absolutely correct. I'm a fan of those types of options things in the retirement accounts.
So I wish I would have held trade that. Goes well. This trade goes well for you though, but riddle me this. So you have that big trade, but the rest of it, you said you're frustrated with options. Was that just the rest of your trades weren't really going well? Or, you totally nailed it in terms of, you're adding a lot of complexity when you add options on top straight from the get-go. However, absolutely. Once you got the charting stuff down, there's a lot of things you can trade. So do the other trades just go poorly and then you moved into futures?
Well, so after I got out of that covered call, that took about 6 weeks. That's the only trade I did for like 5 or 6 weeks. And then after that, I'm like, okay, that was, I think, May. And, so summer was coming on. I started paper trading options directionally again. And to be honest with you, I just think that I was just not planning it right. What would happen is I'd get stopped out. It'd be a little bit bigger than what I thought it was because of slippage and spreads and that kind of thing. And then when I'd finally get one going my way, I just wouldn't let it work for me. I think that's a big part of my problem overall in general. Is just that I've always had a hard time, or one of my struggles has been letting my winners work for me. And so so I tried the directional options thing, paper trading for a little while after that again, and then I got into summer, and just things got busy, and I used to hate that. Now I kind of embrace it, but because it gives me time to reflect. But at that time, during the course of that summer, I was thinking maybe I should get into the selling side of options more, because then I could trade easier in the summer as well. Something I could do from my phone. It just I just done the covered call thing, so it seemed like that would be a good direction for me to go in. And so I put a lot of time. I wasn't trading in the summer, but I was putting a lot of time into learning it. I took the advanced options course again, because I'd taken it once before too when it first came out. And so I went through that and other online resources as well, just trying to learn more and more about that strategy. And I put a few small spreads on later in the summer, and I actually was doing pretty good. They just weren't very big. I just wasn't making that much money. And I think my problem was that it just seemed like such a big world. It just seemed so huge that I wasn't sure if I was really going to be able to grasp it soon enough for me to like make the kind of money I wanted to make. I don't know if that makes any, if that was, I don't know. I had the idea that I wanted to make, I like directional trading because you can make, good gains just day in and day out if you're good at it. Like, look at some of these guys in the chat room. That's the thing with the chat room there, and people posting things is like, man, I want to be able to do that. And so I was talking with Hooch in the chat room, and I was also talking about like how I'm, being that time of year, I'm a musician, and it's just difficult for me to stay on a day trading schedule. And I'd said something like, man, if the market opened at like 4 p.m., man, that would just be a world changer for me. And then Hooch had suggested like, well, maybe you want to, give futures a look because they trade, 24 hours a day. And so up until that point, I had never even considered trading futures because it just seemed so advanced and so scary. And for good reason. You should be scared of futures especially if you're new.
Scary in what way? That's an interesting. I mean, I know what you're getting at, but you define scary as you associate it with as options or with futures, and why you. I can sense it in the tone of your voice why you're saying you definitely need to respect futures. So I guess talk about
absolutely.
Scary.
Oh well, first of all, unless you have an enormous account, you're going to be trading on margin, and they move very very quickly by ticks. So a small loss on the futures, those can add up very very quickly. And if you're not disciplined, if you don't know about risk management, if you don't already know how to, if you don't understand like RVR trading and risk management, and you're not confident in what you're doing there, I definitely would not get into futures. Having said that, if you are good with risk management and you understand, RVR ratios and that kind of thing, and you're solid with stops, I encourage you to take a look at it, because one of the reasons I liked futures, I found it so attractive. This is what happened after I had the conversation with Hooch. I was at my computer. And I just flipped over. I was in the paper trade mode, and I flipped over to the futures, and it just happened to be at the right time when it was rubber banding into the 200 on the 5 minute from below. And so I just, put a quick bracket order in, and it went really well. So my first paper futures trade went really well. That is always my story. Like I have a lot of beginner's luck. Like the first thing, always seems to work out, and then after that, it just seems to be like a huge mountain trying to get back to doing that again. But and it's all psychological. I know that. We'll get into that in a minute. But I started. I had the margin account set up at that point because I had gotten into the spreads, and so I'd switched. To actually for a while I had in IB. This is another thing. People who use IB might want to be aware of is that you can have a cash account and a margin account joint with each other, and you can transfer money back and forth between them.
That's pretty nice.
So. Yeah, so I had originally set up a separate margin account and still kept the cash account, so I could still, I wasn't abandoning the options thing just yet. I wanted to still be able to do that. But another thing that I found really attractive about futures is the PDT, because I have an account, and I had an account then that was big enough to support the margin requirements to trade futures, but it's still small that I'm subject to the pattern day trader rule. And so the futures are one way you can work around that. And that's another part of the thing, is that when you're trading futures with a smaller account, it's stressful. It can be really, really stressful. And so what I got into doing, I was still excited about it though. I was very confident in my work ethic and in my ability to read charts at that point. I think technical analysis is probably one of my strengths. I really, really enjoy reading charts. And so I thought that, if I just I'm going to give this a try anyway. And so I started kind of, I think, because right about the time of that meetup in Nashville in mid-October that year, I was waiting for my permissions to go through and all that. And I remember talking to you about how, I was going to give futures a go and this and that. And I was pretty excited about it. And I started paper trading it, would have been November. And I started making a few real money trades. But my thing in the beginning, all I would do, I would just wait all day for it to hit the 200 moving average, and I would play the bounce. That was the only thing I did at that time. That was going to be my strategy. I'm just going to wait. I don't care, because I knew that there's going to be a probability of at least some kind of a bounce. And here's another thing I want to point out too. In terms of real money, I've never traded more than one contract at a time, and that makes it difficult in itself because you can't scale in or scale out. On the one hand, it's the same basic thing as we have traders in the room too that are all in, all out kind of guys. It's basically the same thing as that. That's the way I try to see it. It's the same thing as being all in, all out on a stock trade and just not mitigating. But because you can't mitigate, or because I couldn't or I wasn't, that makes it really difficult in terms of how are you gonna, when are you gonna get out? Are you gonna trade your stop out? Or that kind of thing is scalping. And keeping in mind that back then I was very very green, and just I had a lot of things to figure out, a lot more to figure out than I realized at that time.
And I want to cut you off there, though. I want to remind listeners why futures are so scary, and why he's only trading one contract. I'm sure you had plenty of money for more contracts, but
yeah, I could have.
The thing about futures is that when you trade a stock, if you buy one share, it's pretty much 1-to-1. It moves per dollar, percent, whatever it is. For futures, the ES is $12.50 a tick.
Mm-hmm,
so every time the price fluctuates, it's $12 in your favor or $12 against you. And I assure you, if you get caught in a sweep down or something like that and you don't have a stop and you're not disciplined, it only takes 10 ticks and you're out $120 right there. And that's the equivalent of like points, not even 0.1% of a move in the actual underlying. So it's just a highly leveraged thing, and I can't agree with you more. It's something you need to respect. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure listeners understood that. But yeah, carry on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let me ask this real quick, as somebody that doesn't trade futures really at all. If I sit here and say a 50 tick move, is that could that happen relatively quickly, or is that starting to get more kind of further? Well, yeah, it could happen, but or is 50 tick within the realm of possibilities as not necessarily a jaw-dropping move, but still a move that could relatively happen easily. I don't want to say easly, but on a routine basis, normal? Maybe. Yeah, is it normal? There you go.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, I haven't traded ES since early last year. I switched to NQ, and part of it is that reason. ES has a bigger tick size, but it doesn't move quite as far. And what happened? I'll get there in a minute. Well, to answer your question, the NASDAQ moves. It's not uncommon for the NASDAQ to move like even 50 points. That's not abnormal for the NASDAQ. That's a pretty big move for the ES. So it kind of depends on what you're trading. To answer that question. But anyway, should I keep going?
Yeah, no. That was. I was just wondering because point being a 50 tick move. That's well over 600, 7.
Oh yeah,
it's a big. It could be like a count gone for some people if you're getting in.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, futures will eat you alive, man. If you're not ready, and they'll kill you.
You literally have brokers where the only amount you need is $500, and I assure you can blow up that $500 in like 5 minutes. I'm not even joking. You just have to respect it, and it's all about the process. But yeah, it's kind of cruel, to be honest.
Yeah, and
but it's also a land of opportunity too. But yeah,
it is, and anyway, that was perfect because where I was going to go is I can't stand the Facebook ads or really just anything where people are like, "Hey, come trade the futures," and it's like, okay, the futures, you're right, and they feast upon the land of opportunity because that is true, but it's. And I like what you said, Zep, earlier about why don't you just focus and get really good at learning how a stock itself trades. And then you can go into learning how to trade options directionally. And then maybe you could start to go into the futures. But for somebody to just jump right into futures, which is what a lot of these people apparently are trying to get people to do. And I get it. It's a great sales pitch. Hey, all you need is $500. It's open essentially 24/7. The pattern day trading rule. Nope, that doesn't. So come on in, everybody, and we'll teach you how.
Get your gamble on.
Yeah, it's just like. I'm not against futures. I'm just against it, though, right out of the gates because you better.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I want both of you to comment because, again, it's not like I'm a futures trader. I stick with the stocks. But you need to have a very, very firm foundation of technical analysis before you should even think about futures. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say that, and I'd also say you need to not only do you need that, and pretty much respecting risk because like we talked about, you need to respect the risk for this product. You need to have the stomach and the mental ability to say, oh, my stop loss is logically this far away. I need to be comfortable with losing $300 on this trade. Yeah. However, if it's a good trade and it goes to my target, I should expect to make $600. That's a big payday. I guess it's all in perspective, but you need to be comfortable with pretty much the size of the ticks. And there's products that are like 5.25 per tick. But I'm telling you, I think that's what really screws people up is they think, oh yeah, I'll have my stop 2 ticks away. It wiggles. It's going to wiggle. It's not. It's not something that's just goes in a straight line the way you want it to go. So that was always my hardest thing was just pretty much comprehending. I need to be comfortable with these size losses. And ultimately, when I started, I was not comfortable losing like $300 in a trade. That was a lot to me at the time. So
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot for me. Yeah, that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot for me now. But what happened? Well, here, just to kind of pick up where I was before. At the very beginning of 2017, I remember I didn't trade much that December because December wasn't really it's generally not, especially around the holidays, it's not a very good time to trade anyway. And so I was kind of taking a little bit of time there just to kind of get ready for 2017. And I remember that first week of trading week in 2017, that was the week I learned a lot about how much I still had to learn. And what I mean is, I think it was RD was in the chat room, and he was talking about an ES trade he was doing, and he was using overnight lows as a triple bottom at overnight lows, and that's when I was reading that, I'm like, oh, these are probably levels I should be paying attention to. You know what I mean? Like overnight lows, overnight highs, regular trading hour lows and highs. And so I realized I hadn't been doing that. I'm like, well, that's important. And then I also, that's when I got back into the profile with the internals and stuff like that. I had learned about the internals before that. I had known about it. I'd even tried just trading SPY options using the internals at one point. But I was always aware that I liked what the internals were. I thought it was really great information, and I'd known things like the tick chart is most important for day trading or whatever. But when I first looked at it, it was like looking at static on a TV. I didn't understand what I was supposed to be getting out of it. I didn't really understand what I was supposed to be reading in it. And so I started getting back into the internal stuff and trying to understand that better. And I remember that month of January, I think I must have set a record for one tick trades, because as soon as I'd get green, I'd get out, be like, boom, boom, boom. And I'd start adding up these like $8 ticks, and then they'd all go away in like one trade, one scalp.
Yep. I did the same thing when I started. Exactly.
And so I was my strategy throughout most of my futures trading has been trying to do quick in and out scalps. In a nutshell, or in an essence, I've been trading more to survive than I have been to grow. Not saying I don't want to grow, I do, very badly. But most of my strategy that I've been working on with the scalping has been geared more towards supplementing my music income and taking what I need. And because of that, I get out before I let before the big move happens. And so I went on with ES.
Do you want to know the real reason why you get out? And the real reason why Ches got out, which I'm sure he would agree with?
What's that?
Because you already admitted that a loss, you were not very comfortable with the potential losses, right?
Right.
So if you're not comfortable with the potential losses, but hey, look, I'm not looking at a potential loss. Hey, look, I'm actually looking at green. All right, I want out.
Yes.
So that is why and I mean, we're all the same. But a lot of times it gets misplaced, and that's why you have to be so comfortable with, like Ches beautifully said, you have to be able to stomach the fact that, you know what, I could lose this amount. And if in your heart of hearts you're not okay with that amount, then you're always going to be hopping out of trades way too fast, because you know the potential loss that's sitting out there. And if you can just avoid it and then add on, not only avoiding it, but putting some green in your pocket, logically speaking, why wouldn't you do it? But I'm probably going to steal this for future podcasts, but I totally agree. You were trading just to survive, or another way, you were trading not to necessarily lose. And when you do that, exactly. It's going to be very hard to grow an account, because like you said, you're getting a tick. One trade that maybe hits your stop loss, everything's gone.
I lost 6 ticks there. Now I'm red somehow. Even after having a 90% hit rate, you're still red. So yep.
Right. Yeah. And no, I was gonna say, I lost my train of thought.
No, I totally rudely interrupted you. So that
no, it's okay. No, I wanted to point something out though.
You were talking about how you were hopping out of trades too early is what.
Yeah. So it's really a mindset thing. I mean, you got to be an optimist when you're trading. You have to be in a state of mind where you believe that your greens are going to beat your reds. Because like you're saying, like you're afraid of losing. It's almost like when it keeps happening, you expect to lose. And so when you finally get a green one, you bounce out because I'm green. So that's where a big part of where I'm at right now is just trying to basically what I want to do where I'm at right now. I have a story to tell before I get to this point exactly, but is that I'm trying to make fewer trades for bigger moves. Staying in longer and like you're saying, realize the loss, but also realize the potential gains. And so I've been paper trading more with that attitude lately, and it's been going pretty well. But and the other thing is that I want to use up my day trades before I get into futures. Like I'd rather trade stock as much as I can. And so I do that first. I've been trying to pay attention to stock and then use futures more as a second thing. But anyway,
I want to throw something out there, and I just want feel free to disagree. Like I said,
absolutely.
This is just that's why I like these welcome back episodes. We're just hanging out, having a chat. But you said you want to be more of an optimist within a trade, and I agree. You want to be positive. You want to have confidence. But I wonder, and that's why I'm just throwing it out there. I almost think that it's best to almost be a pessimist and say, you know what, I'm going to look at the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario being I take a loss, at my stop loss from the get go. So there's no like loss or there's no mitigation. There's no, partial, it's just total. It's a full blown. You are wrong from the get go, and you take the loss up at your stop loss. And if you can answer that, because you're being such a pessimist, you're saying, well, everything is going to go wrong and I'm going to get stopped out. I'm not even going to have an opportunity to lock in any profits or anything like that. If you can be like, okay, that's fine. If you can answer that as a pessimist, that you're still willing to take the trade, then to me, that would tell me that you are actually good with the potential loss. And if you're good with the potential loss, it's going to be so much easier to stay in there and let the thing ride and all of that, because you know that by being a pessimist, if you're still okay, then you're comfortable. You're actually comfortable. To steal Chez's term, your stomach can handle the potential losses that is out there. Does that make sense, Chez, Zep? Whoever wants to chime in, or do you totally disagree with my mindset here?
No, I actually agree with that. I totally agree with that, and I do I have had that experience as well before. It's not like I've never had that experience. It's just that I also learned or heard somewhere along the line. It's the more successful traders are the ones who look for reasons not to get into the trade, right? They're trying to, you want to skew the odds in your favor. So you want to look at what's going in your favor, but you also want to, it's the better traders. I've heard this before anyway. The better traders focus on reasons not to get into the trade. The problem that I have with that is I end up never getting into any trades. Is that because I'm always finding a reason not to do it. I understand what you mean with the pessimism thing. This is probably, you've already accepted. Mental trick, right? I mean, you've already accepted that you're going to lose, and I totally get that. I'm just saying that's easier said than done. That's all. But and I also think that that's like confidence you have to build over time a little bit too, through experience, and not to like I said. I mean, I it started with options, and then before I even had a lot of success with options, I was getting into futures. You know what I mean? Like I heard it on, I think it was podcast number 8. That's still my favorite one, I think. Oil rig guy. I remember him saying something in there about he says it's exactly like this. You should not, if you cannot trade stock profitably and successfully, you shouldn't even look at options yet. I couldn't even trade options successfully, and I was getting into futures. And I'll be honest with you, I think I find futures to be easier to trade than options. I use bracket orders in Chart Trader, and I just like the ease of the trade management. Go ahead.
There's less moving parts, that's all. It's pretty much 1-to-1. It is strictly the chart. There is no premium involved. There is no Greeks. It's just, it fluctuates like it fluctuates. It's definitely, I would say, lower complexity, but higher risk and reward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So anyway, the S thing, what happened? I got into summer break that year. That was last year. And about a year ago, when I was coming out of that, I switched over to NQ one day. I was a paper trade again. I think I was just trying to warm myself up to it again and get back in. And I switched to NQ, just for, I don't even know why, just randomly just decided to take a look at it. And since then, I've been trading NQ and I like it better. By the way, I use a lot of market profile stuff, and that also applies to NQ. So the same concepts in the same profile stuff that people use in ES, you can also use that in the NASDAQ. But I thought I've always found the NASDAQ futures to be better because it's $5 ticks. I think that in my mind, to me, the potential loss on one ES trade you could get 2 trades for an NQ, using basically the same amount of space, or you could give it a little bit more room if you wanted to on NQ. So I've had a better time with NQ overall. And the strategy or my thing that I've been doing, with as far as futures trading going, is usually what I want to try and do. And I'm not saying that this is exactly what I'm saying. Is this is harder than it sounds, and I've had marginal success enough to keep going. But like I said, going back to the trade to survive thing. But my mindset has always been up to this point that I want my first trade just to be a quick scalp to get green. And if I can get that going, then I'll take that and I'll build into the risk on my next one and set my stop back a little bit further. And then if I can get that going, I'll have good days. But if I start out red, it's a different mindset. It's hard. It's a lot harder. And that's just a total mental thing. But I don't, I've had this in the past where I will not, I won't trade the same. I won't trade the way I'm supposed to. I'll start staying in too long on things I shouldn't be staying in long because I can't accept the fact that I got to be green. I got to be green, and it usually happens after I have a really good day. Then the next day it'll be like, oh, you're all confident and you think it's going to be, and then, you start out red and then you're just like, the emotions start building in. And now if I get emotional at all now, I just shut everything down. I don't even mess around with it. I'm like, nope, I'm not even going to go there. But what would happen to me before is that I would get, into these emotional states. And then, that maybe that would happen on a Friday. I know it happened on a Friday once, about a year ago. And then I would be just all weekend long, just grinding on me. I have to come back on Monday. And then on Monday, I for, maybe weeks after that, I won't make any more trades. I won't even, I'll sit there and watch it and I'll have good spots picked out and everything, but I won't get in because I'm so afraid of my own emotions. And that's been a struggle for me. As I've gone through this whole process. And
do you keep a trade journal at all?
Yeah, I knew that question was going to come up
because I'm curious. It sounds like, a simple rule, but I realize you're talking now in the past, and it sounds like you've already addressed all this. But a simple rule as if I start off red, then I'm just done for the day, because it sounds like that was the recurring theme was if you start off red, then that's what would spiral out of control.
Right. Exactly. And so that is my rule, actually.
Nice.
If I start out red for the day.
Awesome.
I'm done for the day. That's how I do it now.
Even if it's just a small red, you're just done. Red is you're done.
Just done. That's
awesome.
it. That's it. I'm done.
Awesome.
Yep. The only problem with that then is that a lot of times I'm so afraid to make that first trade. I'll sit here all day and not make any trades. And at the end of the day, it might have just been a beautiful, you look at the chart at the end of the day and you're like, dude, how could you not have made money today? And it's because I was just so, hesitating too much on that first trade. That I end up just like not getting into any trades, and that's not good either. So that's something that I've had to address lately more. Is that coming back into this? I'm going to keep doing this now. I've had enough success doing this to keep doing it. That's why I still have. But I need to let my winners work for me better. I need to find a way to have bigger greens so I can get my growth going in the right way. And that's been a large part of where I'm at right now, just trying to figure out how to go about doing that. Because I feel NQ is a comfort zone for me because I've spent so much time on it now that I feel good about what I'm looking at there. And the other thing a point I want to make before that I forgot to do, I would go back into these, I just lost it again. Paper. What was my point? Sorry guys.
Nope. You were. NQ's your comfort zone. And
God, I can't remember what I was going to say. It was a good point too. Dang.
I hate when that happens.
Sorry. I know, man.
You feel it's like the tidal wave. The great tidal wave of the point is coming, and then all of a sudden it turns into like a little ripple. You're like, oh crap, what was that tidal wave again? I've been there. If it pops back up again, we'll address it. But are you're still trading? Are we caught up to present time now with your current struggles are just letting green, letting winners win?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what was that?
Letting winners win, is that what your current struggle is?
Yeah. So basically where I'm at right now is, this scalping strategy and what I've been trying to do with that, I've had enough success doing it to keep doing it, to survive, but the growth thing. So what I've been trying to, what happened lately, why I got so down a couple of weeks ago, I had some good momentum building last spring before my music schedule came in. I had it was, I was rolling green days back to back. And then summer schedule took over, but I'm like, all right, it's okay. I'll be back in the fall. I don't even like to mess with it anymore. In the summertime, it's just the hardest thing for me, is actually staying on an early morning schedule, because so much of what I do is out of town and in the evenings and stuff, and it's just that's the nature of my life. And so another rule I have is that I won't trade unless I'm all there mentally, because it's just not worth it. I need to be there. So if I don't get enough sleep or something.
Oh, I get the same exact rule. If I get less than 6 hours, I'm like, I don't even want to open my platform, because every time I have traded on no sleep or little sleep, I just do poorly. I know there's certainly people out there that can do it, and they do it really well. And they're like, well, I trade a lot better when I'm still hungover from the day before or something. I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, I need to be like 150% here when I'm putting my money at risk. But to each their own.
Yeah, I need to be bright-eyed and good right in the morning. Or I just can't do it. It's just not worth it, like you say. I will say though, there are times in the afternoons when it's choppy with the futures where I'll just sit there and bounce off the VWAP, all afternoon long. So you can get away on some of those really low volume days. You can get away risking just 3 or 4 ticks just off the VWAP. There are times when that's appropriate, I think. Just getting those bounces. But you got to wait longer, man. Because things can move slow. Man, it's just a psychological, battle for me. I do, I love the idea of swing trading because, I'm not looking at it all the time. That's nice, but I also can't stop thinking about it though either. So I don't know. Swing trading is something I thought about getting back into to deal with this a little bit too, but put a couple on last summer, smaller positions, and that's fine. But I just don't know. I don't think that's really the right thing for me right now either. But yeah, so right now, anyway, as far as futures, and not just futures, with stock as well, is just playing for bigger moves, just like making fewer trades, but playing for bigger moves, and just being careful and being real decisive, or real careful about your entries. And the thing I gotta really just keep working at is not hesitating when you get that good setup. And because that's something that's happened to me in the past before. It's like I did have the right spot. I did have it worked out. That was the right thing, and I didn't take it because for whatever reason I just hesitated. I didn't do it. Here's how this is something I want to point out. How I get into my futures trades. I used to get stopped out and cheap shotted a lot. What I do now is I'll have bracket orders saved in Chart Trader, and I won't actually, so I can see them on the chart. They're saved in save mode. And, manipulate the lines the same way we do in the webinars and stuff. Just figuring all that out. And if it gets down to my entry, I don't actually submit the order until it gets there, because I want to see how it comes in, because I used to get cheap shotted. Everybody gets cheap shotted. I know that. But it used to just happen frequently where I'd get stopped out and then it'd come right back over, retest the line I had, and then go the way I wanted it to. And so what I do now is I'll wait to submit that order until it gets there, and I'll do it by feel, because a lot of times it will come down, hit what would have been my stop, and I won't move the stop where it is, and then it'll come back over, and I'll try to catch it on that rebound back up, or I'll wait for it to come back down and retest the line that it was going to test. And that's helped save me on a few cheap shots and getting stopped out not quite as frequently. So I didn't want to make a point that that might be something people might be interested in. But so I'm just trying to basically just make fewer trades, but better ones in general. Overall, is where I'm at right now.
What is your comfort? So let's just take a stock, for example. What are you okay with taking a loss at? Is it $50, $100? What is that threshold?
Oh, for futures? No, I usually like to keep it about.
Go ahead.
Well, for futures, I like to keep it typically at about 2 points if I can, 2.5, which is about $40 or $50 on the Nasdaq. I see what I used to do for a long time is I keep it at like 3, with after commissions it'd be like $19. The problem is that you're going to get stopped out a lot.
I was going to say that sounds like you're going to get whipsawed at all.
Yeah. It's just too tight.
I've had success doing that, but yeah, you're going to get stopped out a lot, and it's just a lot of stress, a lot of work trying to find. I see after all the energy and all the stress and all the focus that goes into I don't want to say stress necessarily in the analyst part, but all the work that goes into finding those good entries. I really just got to take advantage of the better ones, because trying to find 5 good entries on a scalp when you're risking just that much is really difficult to do. Or I mean, if you're trying to do like multiple small trades like that, it's really difficult to do. So
No, you were having success though, right?
Yeah, I have had success.
But the effort required to generate the success is what you're saying was just not very efficient.
And I'm not overall really making that much when you factor in all those stops. You know what I mean? And all the res, it doesn't. At the end of the overall, it doesn't add up to what I think that is it really worth it?
Right. Where if you were to break it down, you may be making like $2 an hour. So you're like, I literally would have been better spending my time, working for a minimum wage somewhere. So no, that makes sense because at first I was like, wait a second. What do you mean you having success, but that makes sense now on when you filled in. Sure, it was success, but it's just not really it wasn't a worth it type of success given all, like you said, the effort and time you'd have to spend to put into it. Now, are you trading with, you're trading with still just one contract, right? With futures?
Yep. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And
I mean, I could probably do two right now. I know I could do two. I'm not sure if I could. I could probably do two. I know I could do two. I just don't know if I don't know if I'm even quite ready to do that with futures yet. But it has been nice to be trading stock again lately. Like I've been doing. I did a couple of trades on Apple and Facebook lately, just straight up stock trades. And it's been just kind of a relieving, just being able to scale out.
That's what I was going to say with the futures. It sounds like if you went up to two contracts, and I'm not saying you should. I mean, that's you got to figure out those mental. And you figure out your stomach. But I mean, if you could do two, you just nailed it. You get where I'm going with this. And that would allow you to be able to scale out at least one contract in futures, give yourself some green. And then that way it would allow you to stay in the trade a lot longer if you already knew you had banked some of the profits, which
absolutely. I mean, and I think that's the direction I'm going in.
And I think that's what you really seek, because you summed it up perfectly when you said it's refreshing to be able to do that with stocks. I mean, that's clearly what the big hindrance is on the futures is, in my mind at least, is just
I think you're right.
The ability to not be able to scale out, because when you're using words like refreshing, well, that implies that something is annoying, or that implies that something is
it's not a good fit.
It's not a good fit.
Yeah.
And if that good fit is coming from futures, well, then clearly the good fit is the inability to be able to scale out like you can with stock. Mm-hmm. So I think that's you using the word refreshing, I think, just illustrated exactly what's kind of your little crutch right now, in the futures market. So it sounds like you think you could potentially do two contracts. So it very well may be worth doing that, so that you can just create some refreshment, if you will, in the futures market, like you're getting with stocks. How many shares do you go in when you're doing stocks?
Like Apple or Facebook, 100. I usually do 100.
And then you scale out what, 25 at a time, 50 at a time, or something?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Usually 25 and then 25. Or it's it kind of depends. I did a Facebook trade not that long ago where I did half of it. I mitigated half right away, and that was too much. I left a lot on the table doing that. So yeah, I like to mitigate enough just to 25, like a quarter is usually about right.
And that all makes you upstairs in your mind. That just makes you feel good about things. It
keeps it
easier. Yeah,
it's much easier,
right? Because we talk about this quite a bit in the webinars, and we've talked about here. But I mean, you can look at a spreadsheet and be like, well, if I let everything run and blah blah blah, yes, the wins compound that much quicker. But that's all spreadsheet math. In trading math, in mental math, and like human emotion psychology math, if you're not going to be feeling good about things, if you're not going to be able to keep yourself halfway sane, then I don't care what the spreadsheet math says, because that is about as theoretical as it gets. So, but yeah,
right.
The way you talk, futures, if you can somehow get that up to $2 or not $2, two contracts.
Yep. I think I'm going in that direction. I've been paper trading more the last couple of weeks again. It's been going good. So I think that with what my goals are right now, I'm going to start doing that a little bit more on paper first. Just kind of, get used to it. I feel pretty good about where I'm at with reading market profile and stuff like that in the internals. And I've definitely come a long ways in that category. So if I just kind of pick the right days with the right setups, I think I could be successful doing that. I remember what I was going to say before. When I was learning when I'd be paper trading futures, I might be being successful paper trading, but I didn't really know what exactly my risk tolerance was. I might be or I might think I know what it is when I'm paper trading the futures and I'm having some success. Then you start doing it with real money, and then you realize that maybe I'm not that risk tolerant. So I think like a lot of some of my big learning curve in the last couple of years, but I think a lot of it's just been trying to define what exactly is my risk tolerance. and trying to, build it in a good way, I guess, build it in the right direction. But that was what I was trying to say before, is that I wasn't exactly sure for a long time what my risk tolerance was, or I thought I knew it was, but you start trading with real money then after that, and you realize it's not maybe where you thought it was.
But you do know where it is now?
I think I have a pretty good idea. I think what I'm going through right now, it's almost like I feel like I had to go through this, is like almost what it feels like to me, because that first couple of days, I sent you that email and everything, and it, it was really down mood. And that's I was really starting to question, like, man.
Yeah, I have to be honest. That email,
it was dark.
It sounds like, I mean, are you overall profitable? I mean, I'm not saying massively profitable, but are you overall profitable?
Overall, yeah.
Well, goodness, Zep, I thought you were drowning in a sea of red. I thought you were the worst trader ever.
Well, I sure felt like it.
Clearly. So this whole time I was, thinking, all right, we're gonna have to be encouraging, because Zep is he's really struggling.
We're gonna talk him off the ledge here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk him off the ledge. And now to hear that you're actually, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the ambition, and I love that. Well, yeah, you want to get more profitable. That's the whole goal here, is to grow. But I don't know, maybe step one for you is to just not be necessarily so hard on yourself. And that's a fine line. Yeah, I get it.
That's a big problem for me.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta,
it's a big problem.
You gotta be disciplined. You gotta be, you screwed up there, dummy. And you gotta be, but you also gotta, I don't know. Welcome to the wonderful world of trading and why it's so difficult, because there are so many fine lines out there. But
right, I think because in some ways, like, I relate my trading journey to my musical journey, and I've been on my musical journey for 26 years now or something like that, and I remember back to where I was, back in the beginning, and I had, in some ways, it's a lot of this similar. There's a lot of similarities, but what works has been successful for me in that world in terms of self-criticism and that kind of thing. That doesn't really work in the world of trading. And so I've had to really adjust that mindset. Like, I have to be nicer to myself. I can't criticize myself. There is no perfection anywhere. There's definitely no perfect in the world of trading. You're never going to be right all the time. And just trying to work around being, and I understand that. I have always understood that, but trying to get to a point where I can consistently be in that mindset, that's been a struggle for me. I'll admit that for sure.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point about music, kind of the journey doesn't translate to trading. Really, very few things in life actually translate over to trading, because I mean, and Chez and I, we bring this up all the time, but just from, like, you have to go into trading saying, hey, I'm going to be a good loser. Losing's part of the game. Losses are going to happen. Yep. I'm going to be wrong. But we're brought up as kids and just in many other places of life. If you show up at your normal job and like, well, I'm gonna have some losses. I'm gonna do some, I'm just gonna. I mean, that, like, what kind of attitude is that? You got to show up and you got to be confident. What are you talking? You can't be talking about losses, but in trading, you better be talking about losses, because it's going to happen no matter what. But there's very few.
That's
things.
The only thing you can really control too.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
exactly.
Zep, I think that's a great discovery that you've made. Is, wait a second, I can't. It's not even really apples and oranges. This is like apples and, I don't know, peas, or apples and mouse turds. I don't know what it is, but it's not there. It's not even apples and oranges. There's such a difference that, it's, and that's for you as listeners. These are the little nuggets that I hope you take away, is you can't compare trading to probably 95% of other parts of life, because it's just not a direct translation. Because in trading, you're going to lose, and you better get that in your mindset that you're going to lose. And for some people,
and be nice to yourself. That's the thing. I've been trying to learn how to do better, is really focusing on that. Just like, even if if I have a red day or whatever, hey dude, just tell yourself, hey dude, you did, you tried. And back to answer your question with the journal, I not exactly. I take a lot of screenshots. I document everything, what it looked like beforehand, what it looked like while I was in the trade, and I write little notes, and I try to review that kind of thing. I don't usually write down my emotions or anything like that, what I was feeling. Maybe I should start doing that. I don't know.
I don't know. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So taking screenshots and all that's a really good idea. I think.
So so also in pre-market now, I try to, review those pictures, and so show what the good ones look like. And they weren't all, just because it was a loser doesn't mean it wasn't, a good setup or anything. But just trying to review what I was looking at, what was happening at the time, and just try to get in the right state of mind, just looking and to remind myself, hey, I'm pretty good at this, really, if I just let myself. So just trying to get into a good state of mind in the morning. I think for me, that's the most important thing, just getting to a good, healthy mindset to trade. So
awesome. Well, I think this is, unless you had anything else to add, but I think this is a good kind of ending point, and we're definitely gonna have you back before 190 or 150 some episodes. But that was a lot of good stuff. And I mean, we're still friends. I like you and all, but honestly, I was a little nervous about this interview because that email you sent, I was thinking that you were just,
was dark. Yeah.
he has made zero progress. He's not good. And then long story short, we come out that you're still actually profitable. You're just not nearly as profitable as what you wanted to be. So,
right.
Yeah. But
right.
Let me put it this way. I agree. Be nicer to yourself. And also just remember, there are a lot of people that are extremely and would be extremely jealous of your current situation where your rough patch, your annoyance is coming within a general context of still being profitable. So, I mean, so just keep that in mind too. When in the moments where you don't want to be nice to yourself, just remember, it could be a lot worse. It could be a situation of being severely red or something like that. But yeah, all I would say is
that's one thing I could say. I've never blown my account up. I can honestly say that I've never done that, and I don't see at this point I ever would, unless some mistake happened that I wasn't there to see or something. But
well, since you just said it'll probably happen as soon as we end this, and we will we'll probably have you back next episode, and you're going to just say, "Hey, I was here last episode, but full-time music now because I blew up my account because I said I never would." But so we have that documented. But no, that's this was good. We had some great talking points, some good rabbit holes, and I appreciate your candidness about struggles, what you've done to start to figure that stuff out. But Ches, this was some good stuff. Would you agree?
I'd absolutely agree, and I just hope that talking this stuff through, it was obviously Zep wrote us a big long email, but I think talking it not in person, but just back and forth and kind of, it really kind of helps the mind digest certain things that you need to work on. So, but be less hard on yourself, man. It's part of the process. You'll be just fine.
That's my deal. Yeah, I'm really glad I decided to do this because it gave me a chance in the last week or so since I scheduled it to really think back to more so than I have maybe about where I've been since my last podcast, for example. And it's been really good for me to just work through all that again and think it all through and talk about it with you guys. So I appreciate you guys having me back.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have you back again. And like I said, we are not going to wait 150 episodes this time. But awesome. Thank you again, Zep. Now, for you listeners, before you go, a final few things. If you're listening to this on the website, make sure to click that share button. And then down below the video, there's an area for comments. Leave those comments. We will read them. We will reply to them. We pride ourselves in being as interactive as possible. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to check out the channel as a whole. It's not just podcasts. There's live trade videos. There's vlogs. There's all sorts of stuff. So check out the channel, and hopefully you decide to ultimately subscribe. And then finally, if you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, make sure to subscribe so you can be kept up to date when new episodes are released. And also, especially on iTunes, if you could leave us a rating, that helps us out quite a bit and goes a long way. And Ches and I would certainly appreciate it. So thank you again to you as viewers. Thank you to Zep. Thank you to Ches, our co-host. We'll see you back next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.